ॐ श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविन्दा गोविन्द सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। नमो नमः सद्गुरुभ्यः सद्गुरुभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो नमः सद्गुरुभ्यः सद्गुरुभ्यो नमो नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रय विनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरह कातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुः तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। यस्वानुभावमखिलश्रुतिसारमेकम् अध्यात्मदीपम् अतिथितीर्षतां तमोऽन्धं संसारिणां करुणयाः पुराणगुह्यं तं व्याससूनुम् उपयामि गुरुं मुनीनां। योगीन्द्राय नमस्तस्मै शुकाय ब्रह्मरूपिणे संसारसर्पदष्टं यो विष्णुरातम् अमूमुचते कालव्यालमुखघ्रास त्रासनिर्नाशहेतवे श्रीमद्भागवतं शास्त्रं कलौकीरेण भाषितम् एतस्मादपरं किञ्चित् मनःशुद्ध्येन विद्यते जन्मान्तरे भवेत् पुण्यं तदा भागवतं लभेत् ज्ञानवैराग्यसम्पूर्णान् हरिभक्तिपरायणान् पूर्वाचार्यातहं वन्दे सम्प्रदायप्रवर्तकान् भगवन्नाम साम्राज्य लक्ष्मी सर्वस्व विग्रहं श्रीमद्बोधेन्द्रयोगीन्द्र देशिकेन्द्रम् उपास्महे। कलिकालोचितं धर्मं नाम संकीर्तनात्मकं निर्णेतुम् अवतीर्णं तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे। हरे रामेति कृष्णेति नाम संकीर्तनं सदा लोकक्षेमाय कुर्वन्तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयात् इतरतश्चार्तेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम् श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यते कृतिभिः शुश्रूषिभिस्तत्क्षणात् निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखाद् अमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् श्रीमद्भागवताख्योऽयं प्रत्यक्षः कृष्ण एव हि स्वीकृतोऽसि मया नाथ मुक्त्यर्थं भवसागरे मनोरथो मदीयोऽयं सफलः सर्वदा त्वया निर्विघ्नेनैव कर्तव्यो दासोऽहं तव केशव। श्रीहरे नमः श्रीहरे नमः श्रीहरे नमः। गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविन्दा गोविन्द सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. Sorry. Okay, so we do 2.3 and then up 2.4, I think up to 12, I believe. So about 38 verses are there. So you can do 19 each. Jay Sri Shankar, can you do one? And Sri Vidya, can you do one? Half.
Yes, Rajesh, but number three is from the beginning or from I
Yeah,
mark from the
3,
beginning?
1 to 19. Yeah.
3, 1 to 19. Okay.
Yeah, 2.3, 1 to 19. And then the remaining will be up to 12
Yeah,
of
4.
the 2.4.
So should I start?
Yeah, you can start. Yeah.
Okay. गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविन्द गोविन्द श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। श्रीमद्भागवते द्वितीयस्कन्धे तृतीयोऽध्यायः। श्रीशुक उवाच एवमेतन्निगदितं पृष्टवान् यद्भवान् मम नृणां यन्म्रियमाणानां मनुष्येषु मनीषिणां ब्रह्मवर्चसकामस्तु यजेत ब्रह्मणः पतिम् इन्द्रम् इन्द्रियकामस्तु प्रजाकामः प्रजापतीन् देवीं मायां तु श्रीकामः तेजस्कामो विभावसुं वसुकामो वसून् रुद्रान् वीर्यकामोऽत वीर्यवान् अन्नाद्यः कामस्त्वदितं स्वर्गकामोदिते सुतान् विश्वां देवान् राज्यकामः साध्यान् संसाधको विशाम्
Deshan, the first half, first line, first half, and the tvaditim.
Tvaditam Chanennan. Yeah, Tvaditim. Yeah, I keep making that mistake. Ayushkamoshvinau devau pushtikama ilam yajet प्रतिष्ठाकामः पुरुषो रोदसी लोकमातरौ रूपाभिकामो गन्धर्वान् स्त्रीकामोऽप्सर उर्वशीम् आधिपत्यकामः सर्वेषां यजेतः परमेष्ठिनम् यज्ञयजेद्यशस्कामः कोशकामः प्रचेतसं विद्याकामस्तु गिरिशं दाम्पत्यात् उमां सतीं धर्मार्थ
First line, first word, yajnam, im.
Oh, yagya yaje. Okay, I
You
missed
said
that.
yajna,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Dharmartha uttama shlokam tantum tanvan pitrun yajet raksha kamah punyajanan ojas kamo marudganan rajya kamo manun devan nirritim tvabicharan yajet kama kamo yajet kama kam.
Oh, sorry, you got muted, I think. Oh, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry, my AirPods fell off, sorry. Dharmartha uttama shlokam tantum tanman pitrun yajet raksha kamah punyajanan ojas kamo marudganan rajya kamo manun devan nirritim tvabicharan yajet kama kamo yajet somam akamah purusham param akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradihi tivrena bhakti yogena यजेतः पुरुषं परम् एतावानेव यजताम् इह निःश्रेयसोदयः भगवत्यचलो भावो यद्भागवतसङ्गतः ज्ञानं यदा प्रतिनिवृत्तगुणोर्विचक्रम् आत्मप्रसाद उत यत्र गुणेष्वसङ्गः कैवल्यसम्मतपथस्त्वत भक्तियोगः को निवृतो हरिकथासुरतिं न कुर्यात् शौनक उवाच इत्यभिव्याहृतं राजा निशम्य भरतर्षभः किमन्यत् पृष्टवान् भूयो वैयासकीमृषं कविम् एतच्छ्रूषतां विद्वन् सूतनोर्हसि भाषितुं कथा हरिकथोदर्काः सतां स्युः सदसि ध्रुवं स वै भागवतो राजा पाण्डवेयो महारथः बालक्रीडनकैक्रीडन् कृष्णक्रीडां य आददे वैयासकिश्च भगवान् वासुदेवपरायणः उरुगाय गुणोदाराः सतां स्युर्हि समागमे आयुर्हरति वै पुंसाम् उद्यन्नस्तं च यन्नसौ तस्यर्थे यक्षणो नीतः उत्तमश्लोकवार्तया तरभः किं न जीवन्ति भस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्त्युत न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति किं ग्रामे पशवो परे श्वविड्वराह्रोष्टखरैः संस्तुतः पुरुषः पशुः न यत्कर्णपतोपेतो जातु नाम गदाग्रजः.
You can stop. On the first line,
And how do you say that word? It's ரொம்ப tongue twisting இருக்கு அந்த ஸ்வவிட வராஹ்ரோஷ்ட.
So that you can break it into 4 words and you can't quite say it together. It's hard. Shwa bid barahostra kareihi.
But அது சேர்ந்து சொல்றது ரொம்ப tongue twisting இருக்கு.
Barahoshi. அது வந்து அந்த bid வந்து you have to make sure you're saying it as a bid. If you're trying to say is bida or something, then it won't land, right? So shwabid barahostra kareihi.
Okay.
The shwabid you say it together.
Okay.
Shwabid Virahoshtrakaraihi.
Varahostra.
Yeah, Varahoshtrakaraihi.
Shvavidvarahoshtrakaraihi. Then also in that other line, Rajesh, I had one more. Line 14. Etachushrushatam.
Yeah, Etachu Shrushatam. You just have Etachu Shrushata. And between the chu and shru, it's a very micro pause.
Okay.
Etachu Shrushatam Vidwan.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And the 19 on the first line, last word is Pashuhu is a short u. Okay. I think you just stretched it. Pashuhu, you said Pashuhu. Purushah Pashuhu.
Got it. Thank you.
Shivjagvadia.
Rajesh, I'll have to skip today. I'm in a party here. In between, I'm attending the class.
No worries. So Priya, you can do it. Priya.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, Nigga, Priya run. Yeah. Mute little Priya.
विलेपदोरुक्रमविक्रमाण्ये न शृण्वतः कर्णपुटे नरस्य जिह्वा सती भार्तुरुच्चेव सूत न चोपगायद्गुरुघाताः पारः परं पट्टकिरीटजुष्टम् अभ्युत्तमाङ्गं ननमेन्मुकुन्दम् चावौ करौ नो कुरुतः सपर्यां हरेर्लसत्काञ्चन कञ्चनौ वा पर्याहिते ते नयनेन राणां लिङ्गानि विष्णोर्न निरीशतो ये पादौ नृणां तौ द्रुमजन्मबाधौ ते त्राणिनानुव्रजतो हरेर्यौ जीवञ्च वो भागवतां गृहेणुं न जातुमर्त्योऽखिलपे वेदयस्तु श्रीविष्णुपद्यामनुजस्तुलस्याः श्वसञ्च वो यस्तु न वेदगन्धं ददश्म हृदयं तदेदं यद्गृह्यमाणैर्हरिनामधेयैः न विक्रियेतात यथा विकारो नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्षः अताभिदेह्यङ्गमनोनुकूलं प्रभाषते भागवतप्रधानः यदाह वैयासगिरात्मविद्या विशारदो नृपतिं साधु पृष्टः इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां द्वितीयस्कन्धे द्वितीयोऽध्यायः अथ चतुर्थोऽध्यायः सूत उवाच वैयासकेरिति राजेश्यून्
वैयासकेरिति वचः
वैयासकेरिति वचः तत्त्वनिश्चयमात्मनः उपाधार्य मतिं कृष्णे औतरेयसतीं यदात आत्मजाया सुखाकार बहुद्रविण बन्धुषु राज्ये चाविकले नित्यं विरूढां ममतां जहौ
First line after the comma, Pashu Dravina. I think you said some other word after the comma. First word after the comma. Pashu Dravina.
पशुद्रविण.
Yeah.
Okay. पप्रच्छते ममेवार्तं यन्मां वृत्स्पृच्छद सत्तमाः कृष्णानुभावश्रवणे शरद्दधानो महामनाः
Shraddhadhano Mahamanaha.
श्रद्धधानो महामनाः संस्थां विज्ञाय समन्यस्य कर्मत्रैवर्गिकं चयत वासुदेवे भगवती आत्मभावं दृढं गतः राजोवाच समीचीनं वचो ब्रह्मन् सर्वज्ञस्य तवानघ तमो वितीर्यते मह्यं हरेः कथयतः कथां भूय एव विवित्स्यामि भगवान् आत्ममायया यतेदं सृजते विश्वं दुर्विभाव्यम् अधीश्वरैः यथा गोपायति विभुः यथा संयच्छते पुनः यां यां शक्तिम् उपाश्रित्य पुरुषक्तिः परः पुमान् आत्मानं क्रीडन् करोति विकरोति च नूनं भगवतो ब्रह्मन् हरेरद्भुतकर्मणः दुर्विभाव्यम् इवा भाति कविभिश्चापि चेष्टितं यथा गुणां तु प्रकृतेः युगपत्कर्म शोभिवा
Kramashopiva. And the word Yugapat Kramashopiva.
कर्म युगपत् क्रम शोभिवा बिभर्ति भूरिशस्वेकः कुर्वन् कर्माणि जन्मभिः विचिकित्सितम् एतन्मे प्रवीतु भगवान् यथा चाप्यदे ब्रह्मणि निष्णातः परस्मिंश्च भवान् खलु सूतौवाच इत्युपमन्त्रितो राज्ञा गुणानुकथने हरेः ऋषिकेशम् अनुस्मृत्य प्रतिवक्तुं प्रचक्रमे श्रीसुखोवाच नमः परस्मै पुरुषाय भूयसे सदुद्भवस्थान निरोधलीलया गृहीतशक्ति त्रितयाय देहिनाम् अन्तर्भवायानुपलक्ष्य वर्त्मने भूयो नमस्तद्वृजिनच्चिते सताम् असम्भवायाखिल सत्त्वमूर्तये पुंसां पुनः पारमहंस्य आश्रमे व्यवस्थितानाम् अनुमृग्य दाशु ते.
Brahmane Namaha. Okay, so we'll continue with this first half. Amuchichi, you can be a student, and Jai Shri Sriram, you can be a student. So I'll just say the meaning of this 2.4 up to 11, because like I said, from 12 on, it is just a stuti, so it's just praising. So we won't go through the meaning of that. But the first to 12, quickly, I'll run through the context. So in last class, we saw how, Shuka Brahma was explaining to Parikshit that who to worship for what. He gave a list, right? If you want this, you have to worship this person, this demigod, and you'll get it. And then in the end, he said, a person who has a much more broader outlook, like who's not just constrained by just what is required for material things, but who's also, you may require material desires, you may not have material desires, but if you also desire liberation, then you have to worship the Supreme Lord Purusha. That is number one, right? And the second thing is, he said, while you may worship the demigods for various purposes, the ultimate benefit, which is the supreme devotion, unshakable love to God, he says, the way you can attain it is only by association with people who are also devoted. Like Narayanam also, Bhattacharya says, Bhakti Utpatti Vriddhi Tavacharana Josham, that stanza, we said you have to be associated in the right satsangam, right? So with that, in the end, Shaunaka Rishi is asking Suta Pauranika, what else did Parikshit ask, right? So that's where now we're coming to the Chaturtho Dhyaya. So the Suta Pauranika, he first starts off by saying that for one to be the greatest of devotees, right, there are two necessary conditions. They're not sufficient conditions, but necessary conditions. He says one is you should have had a chance to be born in the family of a devotee, because then at least the environment and everything is giving you an initial jump start, number one. And number two is you need to have the blessings of a spiritual guru, right? Should have the blessings so you're able to go through this. So he says Parikshit is blessed in both cases, because of course he was born in the dynasty of the Pandavas, who Krishna was very close to, and Krishna protected him. At the same time, when everything was going fine, and when Krishna realized that Parikshit needed that blessing, then he got like a curve in the road, right, which he went and did something wrong, but ended up in a positive favor. So he says Parikshit is very blessed. So what Parikshit did is, in second stanza, Atma Jaya Suta Gara Pashu Dravina Bandhushu. He left everything, right? The body, he didn't care about his body. He left his wife, he left his son, he left his palace, he left the Pashu, he left all the animals and horses and everything he had. So he left everything and then he decided to take it up, because that's a very critical thing. And just leaving doesn't help. He has to absolutely live it, because what you don't want is 2 days after he's sitting here, his mind should not go back and say, you know what, I only have 5 days left, let me go back and enjoy, right? So he absolutely has to renounce everything. It's not just letting go something with an opportunity of going back, right? There was no plan B for him here. And at the same time, he also said, I'm not going to go and do other religious things, because he also cannot change his mind. So he has to be very clear. I'm not going to go perform additional homams right now, or I'm not going to go do other religious things. He is very clear. I'm just going to not eat anything, drink anything. I'm just going to fast and just think about Krishna. He was super clear about it. He didn't want any other sense gratifications, because he had anyway given up everything. So he says Parikshit was perfect, because he gave up everything and then he was able to start. Now, Parikshit starts asking a few questions in this, right? Rajo Vacha, when it says, he says, Jika, whatever you are saying is absolutely great, because I'm now getting more and more attached. You're removing the ignorance that I'm actually having with everything you have said. He says, I want to know that all these things, that Vishwam that is there, right? Yatedam Sujate Vishwam, this entire universe, how was it created by the Bhagavan's Atma Maya? How was it created by his internal energy? How was it created? So he asked a very specific question. He's not saying, who created the universe? How did it happen? He says, I already know Bhagavan created the universe. There's no doubt about it. I just want to know how he used this internal energy to go about the process of creation of all the worlds and everything in this, right? And the other important thing here is Parikshit also is not jumping. He's not jumping in and saying, tell me about what Krishna did. Neither is Shukra Brahman also wants to go there, right? They want to know, first you have to understand this entire world. How was it even created by the energy of the Lord? So both of them are in tune with that. And, so that's the thing that Parikshit is asking. She says that, although the Bhagavan is beyond all of these things, he still has to get himself involved in actually creating these material things. And this, he says that, a lot of people, it's inconceivable, because, for us to understand just basically how our body functions itself is extremely complex. Now we have to understand how everything is functioning in this world. He says it's inconceivable to pretty much everybody, but he says, you, Shukra Brahma, you are in the right spot, because you actually heard it, right, directly. So we want to hear from you. So with that, when Parikshit asks, then Shukra Brahma says, okay, let me tell you, right, what I've actually heard and what I'm going to give you this information. That is going to come only in the 5th chapter. But when Shukra Brahma, before he starts telling that to Parikshit, he first does a stuti, which is what you're seeing from the 12th stanza till about the 24th stanza. It's a stuti that Shukra Brahman does, saying, I first want to pray to that Supreme Lord before I even tell you how he created everything in this world, right? So that's the stuti we'll go through right now. So 14, we'll start with 14 today. Namo namaste vrishabhaya satvatam. That word will come together. Namaste vrishabhaya satvatam, comma, vidura kasthaya muhu kuyoginam nirasta samyati shayena radhasa, comma, swadhamani brahmani ramsyate namaha. Namo namaste vrishabhaya satvatam vidura kasthaya muhu kuyoginam nirasta samyati shayena radhasa swadhamani brahmani ramsyate namaha.
Namo namaste Rishabhaya Sattvatam Vidurakaஷ்ඨாய Muhukkuyoginam Nirasta Samyatishayena Radhasa Swadhamani Brahmani Ramsyate Namaha. Namo namaste Rishabhaya Sattvatam Vidurakaஷ்ඨாய Muhukkuyoginam Nirasta Samyatishayena Radhasa Swadhamani Brahmani Ramsyate Namaha.
Namo namaste Strushabhaya Satvadam Vidura Kashtaya Muhukuyoginam Nirasta Samyadi Shayena Radasa Swadhamani Brahmani Ramsyade Namaha. नमो नमस्ते वृषभाय सात्वदां विदूरकाष्ठाय मुहुः निरस्तसाम्यादिशयेन राधसा स्वतामनिब्रह्मनिरंस्यते नमः
यत् कीर्तनं यत् स्मरणं यदीक्षणं यद्वन्द्वनं यच्छ्रवणं यदर्हणं लोकस्य सद्यो विदुनोति कल्मषं तस्मै सुभद्र श्रवसे नमो नमः यत्कीर्तनं यत्स्मरणं यदीक्षणं यद्वन्द्वनं यच्छ्रवणं यदर्हणं लोकस्य सद्यो विदुनोति कल्मषं तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवसे नमो नमः
यत्कीर्तनं यत्स्मरणं यदीक्षणं यद्वन्दनं यच्छ्रवणं यदर्हणं लोकस्य सद्यो विधुनोति कल्मषं तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवसे नमो नमः यत्कीर्तनं यत्स्मरणं यदीक्षणं यद्वन्दनं यच्छ्रवणं यदर्हणं लोकस्य सद्यो विधुनोति कल्मषं तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवसे नमो नमः
यत्कीर्तनं यत्स्मरणं यदीक्षणं यद्वन्दनं यश्रवणं यदर्हणं लोकस्य सद्यो विदुनोति कल्मषं तस्मै सुभद्र श्रवसे नमो नमः यत्कीर्तनं यत्स्मरणं यदीक्षणं यद्वन्दनं यश्रवणं यदर्हणं लोकस्य सद्यो विदुनोति कल्मषं तस्मै सुभद्र श्रवसे नमो नमः
विचक्षणा यच् चरणोपसाधनात् one word चरणोपसाधनात् संगम व्युदस्यो भयतोन्तरात्मनः cannot break that word at all व्युदस्यो भयदोन्तरात्मनः बिंदन्ति हि ब्रह्म गतिम गतक्लमाः that is you remove put a visarga swama comma तस्मै सुभद्र श्रवसे नमो नमः विचक्षणाय चरणोपसादनात् संगम युदस्यो भयतोन्तरात्मनः बिंदन्ति हि ब्रह्म गतिं गतक्लमाः तस्मै सुभद्र श्रवसे नमो नमः
विचक्षणाय चरणोपसादनात् संगम व्युदस्यो भयदोन्तरात्मनः विन्दन्ति हि ब्रह्मगतिं गतक्लमाः तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवसे नमो नमः विचक्षणाय चरणोपसादनात् संगम व्युदस्यो भयदोन्तरात्मनः विन्दन्ति हि ब्रह्मगतिं गतक्लमाः तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवसे नमो नमः
विचक्षणा यच्चरणोपसादनात् संगम यो भयदोन्तरात्मनः विन्दन्ति हि ब्रह्मगतिं गतक्लमाः तस्मै सुभद्र श्रवसे नमो नमः विचक्षणा यच्चरणोपसादनात् संगम यो भयदोन्तरात्मनः विन्दन्ति हि ब्रह्मगतिं गतक्लमाः तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवसे नमो नमः
तपस्विनो दान परा यशस्विनो मनस्विनो मंत्र विदस् सुमंगलाः क्षेमं न विन्दन्ति विना यदर्पणं तस्मै सुभद्र श्रवसे नमो नमः तपस्विनो दान परा यशस्विनो मनस्विनो मंत्रविदः सुमंगलाः क्षेमं न विन्दन्ति विना यदर्पणं तस्मै सुभद्र श्रवसे नमो नमः
तपस्विनो दानपरा यशस्विनो मनस्विनो मन्त्रविदः सुमङ्गलाः क्षेमं न विन्दन्ति विना यदर्पणं तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवसे नमो नमः तपस्विनो दानपरा यशस्विनो मनस्विनो मन्त्रविदः सुमङ्गलाः क्षेमं न विन्दन्ति विना यदर्पणं तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवसे नमो नमः
तपस्विनो दानपरा यशस्विनो मनस्विनो मन्त्रविदः सुमङ्गलाः क्षेमं न विन्दन्ति विना यदर्पणं तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवशे नमो नमः तपस्विनो दानपराय यशस्विनो मनस्विनो मन्त्रविदश्चु मङ्गलाः क्षेमं न विन्दन्ति विना यदर्पणं तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवशे नमो नमः
किरात हूणान्ध्र पुलिन्द पुल्कसा, abhira kankha. I think some books have shumbha. If you have shumbha, you just change it to kankha. So abhira kankha yavanah kasadayah yenye cha papa yadupashrayashrayah. One word, shuddhyanti tasmai prabha vishnave namaha. किरातहूनान्ध्र पुलिन्द पुल्कसा आभीर कंका यवनाः खसादयः येन्ये च पापा यदुपाश्रयाश्रयाः शुध्यन्ति तस्मै प्रभविष्णवे नमः
किरातहूणान्ध्रपुलिन्दपुल्कसा आबीरकङ्का यवनः खसादयः येन्ये च पापा यदुपाश्रयाश्रयाः शुध्यन्ति तस्मै प्रभविष्णवे नमः किरातहूणान्ध्रपुलिन्दपुल्कसाः पुलिन्दपुल्कसा आबीरकङ्का यवनः खसादयः येन्ये च पापा यदुपाश्रयाश्रयाः शुध्यन्ति तस्मै प्रभविष्णवे नमः
किरातहूणान्ध्रपुलिन्द्रपुल्कसा आबीरकङ्का यवनः खसादयः येन्ये च पापा यदुपाश्रयाश्रयाः शुध्यन्ति तस्मै प्रभविष्णवे नमः किरातहूणान्ध्रपुलिन्दपुल्कसा आबीरकङ्का यवनः खसादयः येन्ये च पापा यदुपाश्रयाश्रयाः शुध्यन्ति तस्मै प्रभविष्णवे नमः
स एष आत्मात्मवताम्. That word up to that is one word. If you want to break, you can break it that ma atmatmavatam adhishwarah. The is that comes after that, remove it, put a visargan comma, adhishwarah. Trayi mayo dharma mayas tapomayah gata vyalikairaja shankaradibihi. In visargan comma there, shankaradibihi. Next, the ir goes away, but still there's another ir which is going to come later. So, bitarkya lingo bhagavan prasidatam. Sa esha atmatmavatam adhishwarah trahi mayo dharma mayas tapomayah gatavyalikair ajashankaradibihi bitarkya lingo bhagavan prasidatam.
स एष आत्मात्मवदामतीश्वरः त्रयीमयो धर्ममयस्तपोमयः गदव्यलीकैरजशङ्करादिभिः विदर्क्यलिङ्गो भगवान् प्रसीदताम् स एष आत्मात्मवदामतीश्वरः त्रयीमयो धर्ममयस्तपोमयः गदव्यलीकैरजशङ्करादिभिः विदर्क्यलिङ्गो भगवान् प्रसीदताम्
स एष आत्मात्मवदाम् अधीश्वरः त्रयीमयो धर्ममयस्तपोमयः कदव्यलीकैरजशङ्करादिभिः विदर्क्यलिङ्गो भगवान् प्रसीदताम् स एष आत्मात्मवदाम् अधीश्वरः त्रयीमयो धर्ममयस्तपोमयः कदव्यलीकैरजशङ्करादिभिः विदर्क्यलिङ्गो भगवान् प्रसीदताम्.
If on the second line, first word, Jayashri, if you want to Velikair Aja, if you want to break it, you can do that. Velikair Aja, if you want to, okay. Or if you
Velikair Aja.
Yeah, Gaja, yeah. Gata Velikair Aja Shankaratmabihi. Okay.
Thank you.
Shriyah Patir Yajna Patif Prajapatihi. So visarga comma after Prajapatihi. Next, on top of the dhi, there is a ir that goes away. धियां पतिर लोक पतिर धरापतिः पतिर गतिश् चांदक वृष्णि सात्वतां कॉमा प्रसीदतां मे भगवान् सतां पतिः श्रियः पतिर्यज्ञपतिः प्रजापतिः धियां पतिर्लोकपतिर्धरापतिः पतिर्गतिश्चान्धकवृष्णिसात्वतां प्रसीदतां मे भगवान् सतां पतिः
श्रियः पतिर्यज्ञपतिः प्रजापतिः धियां पतिर्लोकपतिर्धरापतिः पतिर्गतिश्चान्दकविष्णुसात्वतां प्रसीदतां मे भगवान् सतां पतिः श्रियः पतिर्यज्ञपतिः प्रजापतिः धियां पतिर्लोकपतिर्धरापतिः पतिर्गतिश्चान्दकवृष्णिसात्वतां प्रसीदतां मे भगवान् सतां पतिः
Shriya
Pasana, enedadu.
No, good, correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Shriyah Padir Yajnapadir Prajapadihi Diyam Badir Lokapadir Tarapadihi Badir Kadish Chandaka Vrishni Shatvadam Prasidadam Me Bhagavan Sadam Padihi Shriyah Padir Yajnapadir Prajapadihi Diyam Badir Lokapadir Tarapadihi Badir Kadish Chandaka Vrishni Shatvadam प्रसीदतां मे भगवान् सदां पदिः
Yedangriyanudhyana. Yed angri anudhyana. Multiple words, you cannot break it. So yedangriyanudhyana samhadi dhautaya, comma.
ராஜேஷ்
Dhyanu
நோட்புக்ல யதிங்கிற பித் தியான போட்டிருக்கு.
vidhyana.
யதங்கிற பித் தியான.
என்னோட bookல அப்படிதான்.
Okay.
यदं क्रिय विद्यान
B போடு.
bit
Let me check one other version of me 1 second because mine did not have it when I learned also it was not there. So this is 4, right? It's 21. No, okay, it's not there in the other version also. So can you just change it so it is Yedangriyanudhyana. So I don't know where your B is coming. It's coming after Yedangriya Bid Anudhyana.
Instead of the new, there is B.
vidyana
Oh, Vidyana. Oh, okay, just change it to Nu. So it's like Anudhyana. So Yedangriyanudhyana. Yedangriyanudhyana Samadhi Dhautaya, comma. Dhyanu Pashyanti Hi Tattvamatmanah. Vadanti Chaitat Kavayo Yatha Rucham, comma. Same Mukundo Bhagavan Prasidatham. Yedangriyanudhyana Samadhi Dhautaya. Dhyanu Pashyanti Hi Tattvamatmanah. Vadanti Chaitat Kavayo Yatha Rucham. Same Mukundo Bhagavan Prasidatham.
यदङ्घ्र्यनुध्यान समाधिदौतया धियानुपश्यन्ति हि तत्त्वमात्मनः वदन्ति चैतत्कवयो यथा रुचं समे मुकुन्दो भगवान् प्रसीदताम् यदङ्घ्र्यनुध्यान समाधिदौतया धियानुपश्यन्ति हि तत्त्वमात्मनः वदन्ति चैतत्कवयो यथा रुचं समे मुकुन्दो भगवान् प्रसीदताम्
यदङ्घ्र्यनुध्यान समाधिदौतया धियानुपश्यन्ति हि
Tattvamatmanah.
तत्त्वमात्मनः वदन्ति चैतत् कवयो यदा रुचं समे मुकुन्दो भगवान् प्रसीदताम् यदङ्घ्र्यनुध्यान समाधिदौतया धियानुपश्यन्ति तत्त्वमात्मनः वदन्ति चैतत् कवयो यदा रुचं समे मुकुन्दो भगवान् प्रसीदताम्
Prachodita yena pura saraswati, comma, bitanvatajasya satim smritim hridi swa lakshana pradurabhut kilasyatah, comma, same rishinam rishabah प्रसीदताम् प्रचोदिता येन पुरा सरस्वतीं वितन्वताजस्य सतीं स्मृतिं हृदि स्वलक्षणा प्रादुरभूत् किलास्यतः समे ऋषीणां वृषभः प्रसीदताम्
प्रचोदिता येन पुरा सरस्वती वितन्वताजस्य सतीं स्मृतिं हृदि स्वलक्षणा प्रादुरभूत् किलास्यतः समे ऋषीणां वृषभः प्रसीदताम् प्रचोदिता येन पुरा सरस्वती वितन्वताजस्य सतीं स्मृतिं हृदि स्वलक्षणा प्रादुरभूत् किलास्यतः समे ऋषीणां वृषभः प्रसीदताम्
प्रचोदिता येन पुरा सरस्वती वितन्वताजस्य सतीं स्मृतिं हृदि स्वलक्षणा प्रादुरभूत् किलास्यतः समे ऋषीणां वृषभः प्रसीदताम् प्रचोदिता येन पुरा सरस्वती वितन्वताजस्य सतीं स्मृतिं हृदि स्वलक्षणा प्रादुरभूत् किलास्यतः समे ऋषीणां वृषभः प्रसीदताम्
भूतैर्महद्भिर्य इमाः पुरो बिभुः. Put a visarga and comma. The ir on top of ni will go away. Nirmaya shete yadamushu purushah bhunkte gunan shodasha shodashatmakah comma solang krishistha. So ing sound. Solang krishistha bhagavan vachamsi me. भूतैर्महद्भिर्य इमाः पुरो विभुः निर्मायशेते यदमुषु पूरुषः भुङ्क्ते गुणान् षोडश षोडशात्मकः सोऽलङ्कृशिष्ट भगवान् वचांसि मे.
भूतैर्महद्भिर्य इमाः पुरो विभुः निर्मायशेते यदुमुषु पूरुषः भुङ्क्ते गुणान् षोडश षोडशात्मकः सोऽलङ्कृशिष्ट भगवान् वचांसि मे. भूतैर्महद्भिर्य इमाः पुरो विभुः निर्मायशेते यदुमुषु पूरुषः भुङ्क्ते गुणान् षोडश षोडशात्मकः सोऽलङ्कृशिष्ट भगवान् वचांसि मे.
भूतैर्महद्भिर्य इमाः पुरो विभुः निर्मायशेते यदमुषु पुरुषः यदमुषु पूरुषः भुङ्क्ते गुणान् षोडश षोडशात्मकः सोऽलङ्कृशिष्ट भगवान् वचांसि मे. भूतैर्महद्भिर्य इमाः पुरो विभुः निर्मायच्छेदे यदमुषु पूरुषः भुङ्क्ते गुणान् षोडश षोडशात्मकः सोऽलङ्कृशिष्ट भगवान् वचांसि मे.
नमस्तस्मै भगवते वासुदेवाय वेदसे papurjnanamayam saumyaha. Because we are putting a comma there, you have to add a visarga, saumyaha, comma. Yen mukam bhuru hasavam. That's one word. Just say one time for the next 10 minutes. Namastasmai bhagavate vasudevaya vedase papurjnanamayam saumyaha yen mukam bhuru hasavam.
नमस्तस्मै भगवते वासुदेवाय वेधसे पपुर्ज्ञानमयं सौम्याः यन्मुखाम्बुरुहासवम्.
नमस्तस्मै भगवते वासुदेवाय वेदसे बभुर्ज्ञानमयं सौम्याः यन्मुखां पुरुहासवम्.
Etadevatmabhurajan. Etad evatmabhu. If you want to break it, or you can say it together. Etadevatmabhurajan, comma, Naradaya vipricchate Veda garbhobhyadhat sakshat, comma, Yadaha hariratmanaha. So this one, so Shukra Brahman says in this, so up to the 24, like I said, it's a stuti that happens. And then he says in 25th, let me tell you what was told to Narada by Brahma, Veda Garbho, who was impregnated with the Vedas. What did he tell him about the process of creation? एतदेवात्मभूराजन् नारदाय विपृच्छते वेदगर्भोऽभ्यदात् साक्षात् यदाह हरिरात्मनः
एतदेवात्मभूराजन् नारदाय विपृच्छते वेदगर्भोऽभ्यदात् साक्षात् यदाह हरिरात्मनः
एतदेवात्मभूराजन् नारदाय विपृच्छते वेद
அங்க வந்து இச் அன்சா ரைட் சோ விப்ருச்சதே
विपृच्छते वेदगर्भोऽभ्यदात् साक्षात् यदाह हरिरात्मनः
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां द्वितीयस्कन्धे चतुर्थोऽध्यायः
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां द्वितीयस्कन्धे चतुर्थोऽध्यायः
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां द्वितीयस्कन्धे चतुर्थोऽध्यायः
पञ्चमोऽध्यायः नारदोवाच देव देव नमस्तेस्तु भूतभावनपूर्वज यद्विजानीह यज्ञानं पुट इं next word will start with the atma tattva nidarshanam narada uvacha deva deva namastestu bhuta bhavana purvaja tadvijaniha yajnanam atma tattva nidarshanam
देव देव नमस्तेस्तु भूत भावना पूर्वज तद्विजानीहि यज्ञानम् आत्मतत्व निदर्शनम्
Muji, you have the Narada Uvacha, right?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Narada Uvacha.
अद पंचमोऽध्यायः नारद उवाच देव देव नमस्तेस्तु भूतभावनपूर्वज तद्विजानीहि यज्ञानम् आत्मतत्त्वनिदर्शनम्
यद्रूपं यदधिष्ठानं यतः सृष्टमिदं प्रभो यत् संस्थं यत् परं यच्च तत् तत्त्वं वद तत् त्वतः. Again, multiple it and the two coming there in all those words there. यद्रूपं यदधिष्ठानं यतः सृष्टमिदं प्रभो यत् संस्थं यत् परं यच्च तत् तत्त्वं वद तत्त्वतः.
यद्रूपं यदधिष्ठानं यतः सृष्टमिदं प्रभो यत् संस्थं यत् परं यच्च तत् तत्त्वं वद तत्त्वतः.
यद्रूपं यदधिष्ठानं यतः सृष्टमिदं प्रभो यत् संस्थं यत् परं यच्च तत् तत्त्वं वद तत्त्वतः.
तत्त्वतः. Last word.
तत्त्वतः.
Correct. सर्वं ह्येतत् भवान् वेद, भूत भव्य भवत् प्रभुः करामलकवत् विश्वं, विज्ञानावसितं तव. सर्वं ह्येतत् भवान् वेद भूत भव्य भवत् प्रभुः करामलकवत् विश्वं विज्ञानावसितं तव.
सर्वं ह्येतत् भवान् वेद भूत भव्य भवत् प्रभुः करामलकवद् विश्वं विज्ञानावसितं तव.
सर्वं ह्येतत् भवान् वेद भूत भव्य भवत् प्रभुः करामलकवत् विश्वं विज्ञानावसितं तव.
यत् विज्ञानो यदा धारो, यत् परस्त्वं यदात्मकः एकसृजसि भूतानि भूतैरेवात्म मायया. That's one word, भूतैरेवात्म मायया. यद् विज्ञानो यदा धारो यत् परस्त्वं यदात्मकः एकसृजसि भूतानि भूतैरेवात्ममायया
यद्विज्ञानो यदाधारो यत्परस्त्वं यदात्मगः एकः सृजसि भूतानि भूतैरेवात्ममायया
यद्विज्ञानो यदाधारो यत्परस्त्वं यदात्मगः एकः सृजसि भूतानि भूतैरेवात्ममायया
आत्मन् भावयसे तानि न पराभावयन् स्वयम् आत्मशक्तिम् अवष्टभ्य if you want to break it that शक्तिम् अवष्टभ्य ऊर्ण नाभिर इवाक्लमः आत्मन् भावयसे तानि न पराभावयन् स्वयम् आत्मशक्तिम् अवष्टभ्य ऊर्णनाभिरिवाक्लमः
आत्मन् भावयसे तानि न पराभावयन् स्वयम् आत्मशक्तिमवष्टभ्य ऊर्णनाभिरिवाक्लमः
आत्मन् भावयसे तानि न पराभावयन् स्वयम् आत्मशक्तिम् अवष्टभ्य ऊर्णनाभिरिवाक्लमः
नाहं वेद परं ह्यस्मिन्. It's a double n, so you first put a in ह्यस्मिन्, na param na samam vibho, it becomes a na in the second word. Nama rupa gunair bhavyam, sadasat kinchidanyatah. Naham veda param ह्यस्मिन् na param na samam vibho nama rupa gunair bhavyam sadasat kinchidanyatah.
नाहं वेद परं ह्यस्मिन् नापरं न समं विभो नामरूपगुणैर्भाव्यं सदसत् किञ्चिदन्यतः
नाहं वेद परं ह्यस्मिन् नापरं न समं विभो नामरूपगुणैर्भाव्यं सदसत् किञ्चिदन्यतः
भवान् अचरत् घोरं यत् तपस्सु समाहितः तेन खेदयसे नस्त्वं पराशङ्कां प्रयच्छसि. न भवान् अचरत् घोरं यत् तपस्सु समाहितः तेन खेदयसे नस्त्वं पराशङ्कां प्रयच्छसि.
Rajesh, is it na bhavan or sabhavan?
Sabhavan.
Sabhavan. Sabhavan acharat khoram yat tabassu samahitah tena khedayase nastvam parashangam prayachasi.
Sabhavan acharat ghoram Sabhavan acharat ghoram yat tabassu samahitah tena khedayase nastvam parashangam prayachasi.
एतन्मे पृच्छतः सर्वं सर्वज्ञ सकलेश्वर विजानीहि यथैवेदं. that ma you put a im vedam aham, next word starts with aham buddhyenu shasitah. एतन्मे पृच्छतः सर्वं सर्वज्ञ सकलेश्वर विजानीहि यथैवेदं aham buddhyenu shasitah.
एतन्मे पृच्छतः सर्वं सर्वज्ञ सकलेश्वर विजानीहि यदैवेदम् अहं बुद्ध्येनुशासितः.
एतन्मे पृच्छतः सर्वं सर्वज्ञ सकलेश्वर विजानीहि यदैवेदम् अहं बुद्ध्येनुशासितः.
Rajesh, I have one question. In the previous slokam, it is Sabhavan Charad Dhoram or Goram?
Ghoram.
Go, okay.
Yeah, what did you have?
I thought I had it as Dhoram.
No, Ghoram.
Goram.
Okay, all right, we'll switch second. So Madhu, can you be a student, and Sriram, you can be a student. Let me just tell the meaning of little bit of the fifth. So the fifth one, it's like the creation thing is starting, so it gets into a lot of technical thing which I'm going to defer to next class. But at least half of it, maybe up to like 20, is some conversation that is actually happening between Narada and Brahma. So we'll kind of at least cover that today. So the thread inside the thread here is Suta Pauranika is telling the Shaunaka rishis, because that's how it started in the previous chapter, about what Parikshit is asking Shuka, which Shuka was telling Parikshit. But as Shuka is telling Parikshit, he's saying, I am going to tell you what Brahma told Narada, which Brahma says, I'm going to tell you what Narayana told me. Because it's kind of like 4 layers of conversations embedded into this, right? But anyway, Narada is first starting this question in this chapter, right? In the Panchamodhyaya. So Narada first, he's directly asking his father, like we said, right? Because it's going to come later how Narada is going to come from Brahma and all that. But because Brahma is the first person, so Narada is asking Brahma. He says, tell me that Atma Tattvam. I want to know the true essence of the self, right? The knowledge which is required, which will direct one to the super soul. What is the absolute knowledge that is required? Because the creation is going to come as part of this, but he's going to ask a few questions. The first question he asks is, I want to know what is the knowledge of that Atma Tattvam which is required to get me closer. Second, he says, tell me the exact facts, right? He's saying, don't give me possible explanations. Tell me the exact facts, because he knows Brahma has directly heard it. So he says, tell me the exact facts of how this entire world came about to be manifested. What is the background of it? How was it created? How is it actually getting conserved? Who is controlling it? All of these things. And he says, you know the truth, the scientific facts behind it, because whatever was created in the past, whatever is there now, what is going to be created, everything, Narada is telling this. So I'll first say what Narada says, then I'll counter what Brahma says. Narada says it is like in your grip. You are Brahma, right? So it's all in your grip. You are the creator. You are the one. Everything comes eventually from you, and as part of the creation process. So he says, you tell me everything that is there, because this entire material universe, you are the creator. So you know what happens. It's like kind of directly going to the manufacturer of the product, right? To go and say, tell me the specifications of the product, what raw materials you use to make the product, how do you maintain it, how do I service it, all of that. He says, you are the manufacturer, Brahma. So you tell me everything that needs to be about the material world. And then Narada asks another question. Okay, once you tell me how all this material world is manifested, then tell me, how did you get that knowledge, right? Who are you working for, right? Is there a boss to you, right? So who are you working for? What is your real position? Who is controlling all the energy that you have to be able to create, right? So he knows. And the other thing then Narada says is, despite having all of these, everything, every creation, material world creation Brahma is doing, despite having so much power, despite having all this, how is it that you are actually maintaining your austerity still? How are you still doing all the tapas? Because you might have so much pride, right? You've done all these things. How are you not having that pride? How are you continuing to do your austerities? And he's asking all of these things. He says, just like how the example he gives, just like how a spider can spin a web on its own and then pull everything to you, you are actually doing it, so please give me all of that information, right? So he's like a self-sufficient person. And then he says that the entire all this, like I think 8.4 million types of species. At least that's what Bhagavatam is going to say later. 8.4 million species were there, who are all, some of them are superior, some of them are inferior, each of who has different characteristics. That everything has come from you, right? So he says, you are so disciplined. So tell me everything that I need to know about this. How did all of this come about? That's the set of questions that Narada is asking. So Brahma then responds. So Brahma is saying that, you whatever you have asked these questions, is because he says, I'm able to answer you. Why am I able to answer? Because I have been able to see the strength, Bhagavad Virya Darshane, because I have been able to see the strength of the Supreme Lord who can do all these things, right? So I'm capable of answering because I've actually seen that happening, right? And then he says, whatever you have spoken about me is not false. He's not saying it's true that I created everything, but it's also not false, because whatever this 8.4 million species and all these things you created, yes, I created it. But he says, but none of this can just stand because of me. So it's kind of true and false, right? Yes, technically I created all of these things. However, he says it is only possible for a less intelligent person who looks at it. A foolish person will look at it and say Brahma created everything. because everything is coming from Brahma. So Brahma created everything. So he says, because that is the scope, that is the limitations that all of them we have. He says, I am able to create all of these things only after the Lord's creative energy is actually unleashed onto me, right? And he gives a simple example. He says, when you see the moon at night, there is light coming from the moon. So a normal person will think moon is actually giving light, right? So they're saying the moon is the one giving light at night, right? But he says the moon doesn't have any light of its own. The sunlight is falling on the moon, and so you're able to see the light. So he says, you telling that I created is equivalent to saying the moon is giving me light at night. But I myself don't have that light, right? The whole creative energy is given to me by the sun, right? As a simple example. So he says, so you have to see the similar thing, and he says, just like the other example, you can also think of it as Brahma. And I was just teaching this in another 9 a.m. class today morning. He says that when you go to a farmer, and the farmer is actually sowing seeds, right? So he has a bag of seeds. The farmer is sowing all the seeds. So he sows the seeds. Rain comes, sun comes. It's growing into a tree. So somebody will say the farmer is responsible for all of these plantations, right? Because he's the one, he's maintaining his farm. But the seeds the farmer did not get. Somebody gave the seeds to the farmer, right? The process of photosynthesis is not managed by the farmer. The sunlight the farmer doesn't give. The rain also the farmer doesn't give. But the farmer has the ownership of this tree and everything, right? So he said that is exactly how it is. I'm just an intermediary. I'm just a farmer who's just sowing these seeds. But then it looks like I have all of the responsibility and I am able to do all these things, right? So he says, I'm all creating this from the Jyoti, of the energy of the Lord. So Brahma, he's also conscious. He's saying, I always meditate upon that Supreme Lord Vasudeva. And then, he goes on to describe a little bit further, that everything, the ingredients which are there, the dravyam, I think it comes in stanza 14. He says, dravyam, the ingredients which are required, karma, the interaction which is actually happening between all of these things, the swabhavam, the intuition, the nature of all of these living things, all of this are nothing but part and parcels of the Supreme Lord. None of them are independent of the Supreme Lord. Just like another example he gives is when you have fire, there is going to be light which comes out of the fire, there is heat which comes out of the fire, and smoke which comes out of the fire. But if the fire is gone, if the fire was no longer there, none of these three would cease to exist, right? So all these three are dependent on the fire. Similarly, every single thing that is there is not independent of the Lord. It's all dependent. And then he says, Narayana Paro Veda. He says all these things, the Vedic literatures, the demigods who are there, the planets who are there, everything is for Narayana, by Narayana, right? And then, all the offerings, all the prayers which is done, is also done for Narayana only. It's created by him to be worshipped for him only. And he says, only inspired by him, I discovered everything and I'm able to create. So he kind of gives a little bit of a stuti there. And then he then says that, a few things, I think, in this, one important point, and then I'll stop for this class today. He says that the material nature which is there in the physical world, right? So he says the three gunas, right? The sattva guna, rajo guna, tamo guna. The sattva guna is one which is fostering clarity, peace, balance. And the rajas is what drives your ambition and desire that you have. And tamas is the inertia or dullness which is there. So he says every single thing, the material world in the living entity is influenced because of the influence of this. If there is a sattva guna influence, then a person is behaving in a much more virtuous way. He has a clean mind. He has a deeper understanding. He's following one particular thing. When there's an influence of rajas, which is influence of passion, then there is desire. When there's desire, then he wants to be successful. When he's successful, he wants desire to get something. So that becomes a cycle, right? So he kind of goes into that cycle of desire and passion of wanting things and getting stuck in it. If somebody is influenced more by tamo guna, which is ignorance, then it will lead to, hurting others, suffering. It leads to, depression, all of these things, right? So he says, well, all these things are there. He says the cycle and effect, the action that every single living being does is driven by which mode is acting on them. That's very clear, because without that mode, we will not we act in one way because of any of these three modes. But what happens is we all do karma because of the action of these three things. Because of this karma, we have consequences. So he says this is the cycle that everybody is getting stuck at. So the impact of these three gunas on people makes them do different things, which results in karma, which they get stuck in the cycle. And that's the cycle that all these people go through. He says, however, says the Supreme Lord who is there, he says he is not, he uses all these things to construct everything, but he's beyond. He's not influenced by it. He says that is the difference between the Jivatma and the Paramatma. The Paramatma is not influenced by any of these other gunas, although the Paramatma oversees everything which is influenced by these gunas. So that Brahma kind of goes, and then he gets into how the creation happens, which we'll see in the next class. Okay, so all right, so 3-6. All right, so let's start with the ninth stanza. So Brahmo vacha samyak karunikasyedham, comma, vatsa te vichikitsitam yadaham choditas saumya, comma, bhagavat virya darshane. Brahmo vacha samyak karunikasyedham vatsate vichikitsitam yadaham choditas saumya bhagavat virya darshane.
Brahmovacha samyak karunikasjedam vatsadevi kitsidam yadagam sodida saumya bhagavat virya darshane samyak Brahmovacha samyak karunikasjedam vatsadevi kitsidam yadagam chodita saumya bhagavat virya darshane.
Brahmovacha samyak karunigasyetam vatsadevi chikitsitam yadakam sotidas saumya bhagavat virya darsane. Brahmovacha samyak karunigasyetam vatsadevi chikitsitam yadakam sotidas saumya bhagavat virya darsane.
Nanritam tava tach chapi, comma, yatam mam prabravishi bhoho abhignaya param mattaha. So add a visarga because we're going to pause there. Mattaha. Yetavat tvam yatohime. Nanritam tava tach chapi yatam mam prabravishi bhoho abhignaya param mattaha. Yetavat tvam yatohime.
Nanrutam tava tachabi yada mam. Oh, sorry. Nanrudam tava tachabi. Correct, no? You have to split the. Okay. Yada mam bravishi boho avignaya paramattah yadavatvam yadohi me nanrudam tava tachabi yada mam bravishi boho avignaya paramattah yadavatvam yadohi me etavatvam yadohi me.
Nanrudam tava tachabi yada mam prabharavishi boho avingyaya paramam mattah edavatvam yadohi me. Nanrudam tava tachabi yada mam yada mam prabharavishi boho avingyaya paramam mattah edavatvam yadohi me.
On the second line you're saying param, just param mattah.
Avignaya param mattah edavatvam yadohi me.
Yena swarochisha vishwam, comma, rochitam rochayamyaham yatarkognir yata somo. So yata arka, yata agni, yata somo. 3 words there. So yatarkognir yata somo, comma, yatarksha graha tarakaha. Yena swarochisha vishwam rochitam rochayamyaham yatarkognir yata somo yatarksha graha tarakaha.
Yena swarokshisa vishvam rochitam rochayamyaham yadarkognir yada shomo yadarkshak यथा हतारगाः
And yatarksha.
यत्रक्ष okay
Yatarksha.
okay यत्रक्ष यत्रक्ष ग्रगदारकाः
Yep.
येन स्वरोक्षिषा विश्वं रोचितं रोचयाम्यकं यदा कोऽग्निर्यदा सोमो यत्तर्षक्र यदा रगाः
Yatarksha.
यत्तर्क्ष यत्तर्क्ष ग्रहतारकाः
இரு வருது ஒண்ணு. யதர்க்ஷ.
Okay. தர்ஷ கிரகதா ரகாஹ.
Yeah, அது வந்து இப்ப put it in the chat, right?
Okay.
Chat. Okay. यतर्क्ष ग्रह तारका.
Okay.
Can you put it in the chat, but you can just check it later also.
Okay. यतार्कोऽग्निर् यथा सोमो यत्तर्क्ष ग्रहतारकाः. Okay.
येन स्विरोसिषा विश्वं रोचितं रोषयाम्यहं यदार्गोऽग्निर्यदा सोमो यदर्क्षग्रहतारकाः येन स्वरोसिषा विश्वं रोचितं रोषयाम्यहं यदार्गोऽग्निर्यदा सोमो यदार्क्षग्रहतारकाः.
Tarksha. Using tha, tarksha.
Okay. यदर्क्षग्रहतारकाः.
तस्मै नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय धीमहि यन्मायया दुर्जयया मां ब्रुवन्ति जगद्गुरुम्. तस्मै नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय धीमहि यन्मायया दुर्जयया मां ब्रुवन्ति जगद्गुरुम्.
तस्मै नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय धीमहि यन्मायया दुर्जयया मां ब्रुवन्ति जगद्गुरुम्. तस्मै नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय धीमहि यन्मायया दुर्जयया मां ब्रुवन्ति जगद्गुरुम्.
तस्मै नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय धीमहि यन्मायया दुर्जयया मां ब्रुवन्ति जगद्गुरुम्. तस्मै नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय धीमहि यन्मायया दुर्जयया मां ब्रुवन्ति जगद्गुरुम्.
विलज्जमानया यस्य स्थातुम् ईक्षापते मुया. It's easy to break it that way. स्थातुम् ईक्षापते मुया विमोहिता विकथन्ते ममाहमिति धुर्धियः. विलज्जमानया यस्य स्थातुम् ईक्षापते मुया विमोहिता विकथन्ते ममाहमिति धुर्धियः.
Rajesh, is it sthatu or thatu? Is there a sa before?
स्थातुम् यस्य स्थातुम् ईक्षापये मुया.
Because எனக்கு sa இருக்கு sthatumனு இருக்கு.
स्थातुम् STH.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
विलज्जमानया यस्य स्थातुम् ईक्षापते मुया विमोहिता विगद्दन्ते ममाहम् इति दुर्धियः. विलज्जमानया यस्य स्थातुम् ईक्षापते मुया विमोहिता विगद्दन्ते ममाहम् इति दुर्धियः.
विलज्जमानया यस्य स्थातुम् ईक्षापते मुया विमोहिता विगतन्ते ममाहमिति दुर्धियः. विलज्जमानया यस्य स्थातुम् ईक्षापते मुया विमोहिता विगतन्ते ममाहमिति दुर्धियः.
द्रव्यं कर्म च कालश्च स्वभावो जीव एव च वासुदेवात् परो ब्रह्मन्. You have double na, so first put in Brahman. Next one will start with a na. Nachanyor thosti tatvatah. That nachanyor thosti is one word. Nachanyor thosti tatvatah. Dravyam karma cha kalascha swabhavo jiva eva cha vasudevat paro brahman nachanyor thosti tatvatah.
द्रव्यं कर्म च कालश्च स्वभावो जीव एव च वासुदेवात् परो ब्रह्मन् न चान्योऽर्थोऽस्ति तत्त्वतः द्रव्यं कर्म च कालश्च स्वभावो जीव एव च वासुदेवात् परो ब्रह्मन् न चान्योऽर्थोऽस्ति तत्त्वतः
द्रव्यं कर्म स कालश्च स्वभावो जीव एव च वासुदेवात् परो ब्रह्मन् नाचयोन्योर्तोऽस्ति तत्त्वतः द्रव्यं कर्म स कालश्च स्वभावो जीव एव च वासुदेवात् परो ब्रह्मन्
Chanyor.
Okay. वासुदेवात् परो ब्रह्मन् न चान्योर्दोस्ति तत्त्वतः
Narayana para vedaha. So put a visarga and comma there because we are pausing there. Deva Narayanangajaha. Narayana para lokaha, comma. Narayana para makaha. This came somewhere before. Anybody remembers which chapter by any chance?
Yeah.
It just, instead of Narayana, the word was Vasudeva. This Vasudeva para Veda.
13
The first
113
canto, the second stanza, if you
first
look,
skanda, yeah, 13
ah,
14
second stanza, it'll come 28,
Kunti
29.
Studiya.
Shruti
Huh?
Shruti, yeah.
Kunti
Shruti
Studiya.
Huh?
Some Stuti, no, it comes.
Kunti
Yeah, yeah.
Studiya.
No, it just comes when Vyasa is only telling, or I think this is Vyasa is saying, or Suta is saying what Vyasa have said. Is in 1.2, if you go look at 28, 29, 30, it'll come Vasudeva para Vedaha, Vasudeva para Maka. Same thing. Saying
Yeah.
Narayana para Vedaha, Deva Narayana Angajaha, Narayana para Lokaha, Narayana para Makaha.
Narayana para Vedaha, Deva Narayana Angajaha, Narayana para Lokaha, Narayana para Makaha, Narayana para Vedaha, Deva Narayana Angajaha, Narayana para Lokaha, Narayana para Makaha.
नारायण परा वेदाः देवा नारायणाङ्गजाः नारायण परा लोकाः नारायण परा मगाः नारायण परा वेदाः देवा नारायणाङ्गजाः नारायण परा लोकाः नारायण परा मगाः.
Next one is very straightforward. Narayana paro yogo, Narayana param tapaha, Narayana param jnanam, Narayana paragatihi.
Narayana paro yogo, Narayana param tapaha, Narayana param jnanam, Narayana paragatihi, Narayana paro yogo, Narayana param tapaha, Narayana param jnanam, Narayana paragatihi.
नारायण परो योगो नारायण परम दबः नारायण परम ज्ञानम नारायण परागतिः नारायण परो योगो नारायण परम दबः नारायण परम ज्ञानम नारायण परागतिः.
Tasyapi drashturishasya, comma, Kootasthasyakilatmanah, Srijyam, Srijami, Srishtoham. So that me, you put a im, comma. Next word will be a long e. Ikshayaivabichoditah. One word. Ikshayaivabichoditah. So just next 10 minutes we'll do one time. Tasyapi drashturishasya kutastasyakhilatmanah srijyam srijami srishtoham ikshayaivabichoditah.
तस्याभिदृष्टुरीशस्य कूटस्थस्याखिलात्मनः सृज्यं सृजामि सृष्टोऽहम् वापि चोचितः
Ikshayaivabichoditah.
ईक्षयैवाभिचोदितः
तस्याभितृष्टुरीसस्य कूटस्तस्याखिलात्मनः सृज्यं सृजामि सृष्टोऽहम् ईक्षैवापि चोदितः
Sattvam rajas tama iti, nirgunasya gunastrayah sthiti sarga nirodheshu, grihita mayaya vibhoho. Sattvam rajas tama iti nirgunasya gunastrayah sthiti sarga nirodheshu grihita mayaya vibhoho.
सत्वं रजस्तम इति निर्गुणस्य गुणास्त्रयः स्थितिसर्गनिरोधेषु गृहीता मायया विभोः
सत्वं रजस्तमनिधि निर्गुणस्य गुणास्त्रयः स्थितिसर्गनिरोधेषु गृहीता मायया विभोः
कार्य कारण कर्तृत्वे, द्रव्य ज्ञान क्रियाश्रयाः बध्नन्ति नित्यदा मुक्तं, मायिनं पुरुषं गुणाः. कार्यकारणकर्तृत्वे द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियाश्रयाः बध्नन्ति नित्यदा मुक्तं, माहिनं पुरुषं गुणाः.
कार्यकारणकर्तृत्वे द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियाश्रयाः बध्नन्ति नित्यदा मुक्तं मायिनं पुरुषं गुणाः
कार्यकारणकर्तृत्वे द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियाश्रयः बध्नन्ति नित्यदा मुक्तं मायिनं पुरुषं गुणाः.
Actually, in the first line end kriyashrayaha. Okay, and say ya are coming at the end. Okay.
Oh, द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियाश्रयाः
Sa esha bhagaval lingaihi. So that is there. Puts a visargan comma. Bhagavan lingaihi comma. Tribhir ebhir. I'm going to break it into 3 words if you want to. Tribhir ebhir adhokshajah. Swalakshita gatir brahmanne, sarvesham mama cheshwarah. Sa esha bhagavan lingaihi tribirebhir adhokshajah swalakshita gatir brahmanne sarvesham mama cheshwarah.
स एष भगवान् लिङ्गैः त्रिभिर् अधोक्षजः स्वलक्षितकदिर्ब्रह्मन् सर्वेषां मम चेश्वरः
स एष भगवान् लिङ्गै
Double L will come. Sri Ramanganda, Sanskrit will have that bindu matra is there, but at the end of it, it's 2 ill which is coming. So sa esha bhagaval lingaihi.
Okay. स एष भगवान् लिङ्गैः त्रिभिर् अतोक्षजः स्वलक्षितकदिर्ब्रह्मन् सर्वेषां मम चेश्वरः.
Kalam karma swabhavam cha, mayesho mayaya swaya atman yadrichaya praptam, vibhu bhushu rupadade. This cannot quite break it. Kalam karma swabhavam cha mayesho mayaya swaya atman yadrichaya praptam vibhu bhushu rupadade.
कालं कर्म स्वभावं च मायया स्वया आत्मन् यदृच्छया प्राप्तं विबुभूषुरुपातते
कालं कर्म स्वभावं च मायया स्वया आत्मन् यदृच्छया प्राप्तं विबुभूषुरुपातते
कालात् गुण व्यतिकरः परिणामः स्वभावतः कर्मणो जन्म महतः पुरुषाधिष्ठितादभूत cannot break it पुरुषाधिष्ठितादभूत कालात् गुण व्यतिकरः परिणामः स्वभावतः कर्मणो जन्म महतः पुरुषाधिष्ठितादभूत
कालात् गुणव्यतिकरः परिणामस्वभावतः कर्मणो जन्म महतः पुरुषाधिष्ठितादभूत्
कालात् गुणव्यतिकरः परिणामस्वभावतः कर्मणो जन्म महतः पुरुषाधिष्ठितादभूत्
महतस्तु vikurvanath. The dra, you first break it into it. Vikurvanath, comma. Next one will become a ra. Rajas tattvopa brimhitat. Tamah pradhanas tvabhavat, comma. Dravya jnana kriyatmakah. Mahatastu vikurvanath. Rajas sattvopa brimhitat. तमः प्रधानस्त्वभवत् द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियात्मकः
मगतस्तु विकुर्वाणात् रजः सत्त्वो ब्रह्महितात् तमः प्रधानस्त्वभवत् द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियात्मकः
the first line last word sattvopa brimhitat.
Okay. महतस्तु विकुर्वाणात् रजः सत्त्वो बृंहितात्
मगतस्तु विकुर्वाणात् रजः सत्त्वो बृंहितात् तमः प्राधानसत्त्वभवत् द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियात्मकः.
And the second line first word pradhanas.
तमः प्रधानसत्त्वभवत् द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियात्मकः.
Do one more. Sohankara iti prokto, comma, vikurvan samabhutrida vaikarikas taijasascha, comma, tamasas cheti yadbhida dravya shakti kriya shaktihi. Put a visargan, comma. Then on top of the jnana, there is a ir that will go away. Jnana shaktir iti prabho. Sohankara iti prokto vikurvan samabhutrida vaikarikas taijasascha tamasascheti sadbhida dravya shaktih kriya shaktihi jnana shaktir iti prabho.
सोऽहङ्कार इति प्रोक्तो विकुर्वन् समबुद्धिता वैकारिकस्तैजसश्च तामसश्चेति यत्पिदा द्रव्यशक्तिः क्रियाशक्तिः ज्ञानशक्तिरिति प्रभो.
ராஜேஷ் லாஸ்ட் லைன்ல ஞான சக்திர் திருத்தி பிரபு அதுல விசர்காத வரணுமா இல்ல அப்படி
ஞான சக்திர் இதி பிரபு ஞான சக்தி ரிதி டுகெதர் ஆர் இஃப் யூ வாண்ட் டு பிரேக் இட் ஞான சக்திர் இதி பிரபு.
சோஹங்காரி இதி ப்ரோக்தோ விகுர்வன் சமபுத்ருதா வைகாரிகஸ்தைஜஸ்ஸ தாமசஸ்ஸேதி யத்பிதா द्रव्यशक्ति क्रियाशक्ति ज्ञानशक्तिरिति प्रभो.
And the kriya shakti hi anga there is a visarga because in the jnana ku mere there is you'll have a ir next to that kriya shakti hi, right? That will go away. So kriya shakti hi visarga anga.
द्रव्यशक्ति क्रियाशक्ति ज्ञानशक्तिरिति प्रभो.
Yeah.
Rajesh, on the 23rd sloka on the first line on the repeat pandrela, please.
Mahatastu vikurvanat rajas satvopabrimhitat
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Govinda Govinda, Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai, Kahena Vacha Manasendriyerva Buddhyatmana Va Prakrite Swabhavat, Karomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanaayeti Samarpayami. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Rajesh.
Rajesh.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Happy
Rajesh.
Diwali.
Bye, everyone.
Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali. Thank
Everyone.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.